listening to the Terrific Teacherpreneur, a podcast for teachers looking to grow a successful online business. Your host, Alex, was able to transform her Teachers Pay Teachers store from a small side hustle into a profitable full-time business. She now helps other teachers do the same. Listen along for actionable tips and helpful wisdom about business and marketing as a teacherpreneur. Here's your host, Alex.
Hello and welcome to the Terrific Teacherpreneur podcast. This episode, I want to talk about creating really quality products that your buyers absolutely need and really can't resist. This is something that I have talked about on the podcast before. I have sort of mentioned my own experience with this and how I found that I was creating kind of a quantity of resources and not necessarily a quality kind of situation. And I would often create these kind of cutesy crafts and things that maybe a teacher might want, but something they could very easily pass up on, nothing that's really like game changing for them. I did start to shift things a little bit and started to make resources that, are more irresistible, a bit more of a game changer, bigger, more expensive resources that are higher quality that a teacher really needs. It's going to really impact their life, So an example would be instead of like, a little cutesy craft, or a one-off lesson idea or something and one-off activity. Instead of that, it would be more like a bunch of lesson plans, so you're saving them time. Another example, maybe you're someone that creates math centers and you create this like year-long set of math centers, like time-saving stuff, really game-changing stuff. And I've talked about that before, but I kind of want to talk about that a little bit more in detail in this episode. And I'm going to call it your diamond. If you watched Bridgerton, you'll know what I mean. I think that's why I'm thinking diamond. That's why it came to me and I want to call it that, is because in the Netflix show Bridgerton, they have like the season's diamond and it's like the special girl. Anyway, if you have watched Bridgerton, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But regardless, I think I love the term diamond when we're talking about this because it implies that it's this special, beautiful, shiny resource, like this expensive, amazing, glamorous, like irresistible resource that everybody wants. I just think diamond's a really great way to describe it. So that is what I'm doing. I'm going to be calling it your diamond, the diamond of your store. And basically your goal is to find or create your diamond and make sure that you have that in your store. And I think it's a really, really important thing to have in your business. I will describe it a little bit more so you get a little bit of an idea of whether you even have one or whether you need to make one. It will probably be the thing that you are most proud of, maybe a resource in particular, a bundle or a single resource that you have put a lot of work into. Those ones that feel like you've just given birth, you've put so much time into it. When you upload it to TPT, you're just like, oh my gosh. Those ones that take hours and hours and hours of your life, the ones that aren't a sort of resource that you throw together in like an afternoon or a couple of days or whatever. You're the ones that you spend weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months and months on, or maybe it's like a growing bundle that you work on for like a year, like those ones that just take a lot of time. And at the end, you're so proud of it because it's so great. That sometimes I think it definitely comes into this. It will also be great quality. It will be a resource that you are proud of in terms of like, it's good. Because let's be real, and I like to do this with my own store. I think it's really important to be honest with ourselves. Not everything we create is a diamond. Sometimes we do create garbage. And I'm like totally honest with myself in this. I really like to be and say that there are a couple of things in my store I'm not proud of. There are a couple of things I look at and go, oh my goodness, what was I thinking creating that? Or, oh, I haven't updated that in years. That is so terrible. Like I'd be so embarrassed. I do actually sometimes cringe if anyone buys those. We all have some of those in our store. Bottom of the barrel kind of resources. And like, that's okay. That's totally normal. But, your diamond is not like that. This is not one where you cringe when someone buys it. This is one that, sells every day or like, it's like probably a bestseller. So that's probably the next thing I'd say is it's probably your bestseller. Or if it's not your absolute bestseller, maybe it doesn't sell the most in terms of units sold. In fact, it may not because it might be a high price point, but it might be one of your highest earners. Like it's something that's bringing you money. So yeah, it will be something that you probably put a fair amount of time into. Maybe initially when you make it, you put a lot of time into it, but also just maintaining it. It's something that maybe you optimize quite a lot. You probably put a lot of your marketing money into it or your marketing time. You find yourself always talking about it on social media or you pay for ads for it. Like it's a thing that you're always kind of writing emails about and stuff. Yeah, so you tend to give it a lot of love as well. But I think because it's your bestseller or it's making a lot of money. And then I do think as well, it won't necessarily be a super cheap resource. Like your diamond is not going to be a $1 resource. I really don't think so. it's going to be something that's reasonably pricey. It could totally be like a $7 resource, that's fine. But sometimes it will be something that's like $20 or $100. It's usually fairly expensive, or it's usually a bundle. But like I said, it totally can be like under $10, but it's definitely not one of your cheapest resources. And it's definitely not some kind of, dollar store kind of thing, like $1, $2. It's usually something, it just can't be that cheap usually, your diamond, because it's just so hard for resources that are that cheap to really have that much of an impact on teachers, to have that many activities, to be that much of a game changer. The reason they're priced that low is because they are usually smaller resources. So it won't be cheap. More specifically, it might be something like a full year curriculum, or, unit, like a unit of work, a set of lesson plans that spans days, weeks, months, whatever. It might not be lesson plans, but it might be activities in a large quantity, like this big number of activities. Like I mentioned earlier, a year's worth of math centers or something like that. It's like these digital games and they just get like 50 of them or something. It's like a lot. And it will be something that is a game changer for buyers. Time saving, super helpful to their teaching practice. Something where they buy and you've just saved them hours of lesson planning time, or, you've given them something engaging for their students just for weeks on end, all these activities, like they can use it for morning work every day for the whole school year. Like it's just amazing. It usually won't be kind of a fluff resource, like I mentioned earlier with the crafts and stuff, where they sort of lack rigor. It will be something that's probably quite impactful for students, or if it's not, even if it's kind of more fun and fluffy for students, it'll be something that's impactful for the teacher because, like I said, saving them a lot of time. It might even be unique or special in some way, maybe better than what the other sellers are offering, something that no one else is really. A lot of the time, it'll actually be something that no one else is making. And that's why it's your diamond, because you've spent the time making this full year science curriculum, and most other people just are putting out like little science activities, but they don't have the time to make a whole curriculum. Just like the teacher doesn't have time to make it, so they're coming to you to buy it. And you are kind of standing out from everyone else a little bit because simply there's not as much competition, because not everyone's willing to put in the time and effort to make something so amazing. So yeah, sometimes it can just be kind of special or unique because maybe it's like something you created, like a really unique idea, and no one else has done that. But it might not be unique per se. It's just like, a curriculum or whatever, but it's something that a lot of people aren't making, and it's something that's really time consuming and, really involved. So, it's kind of more special, especially, it might even just be better value than what other people are offering. You might be offering something that's just that much better. And so I'm hoping I've given you a bit of an idea of what your diamond is. You might be listening and thinking like, it's like straight away you knew which resource in your store this applies to. If you don't, that's okay. But my suggestions here are to find the diamond if you already have it. It's possible, if you've been selling for a few years, if you have quite a few resources, that you would already have one. And it's, something that a lot of the things I've just mentioned it applies to. And you're thinking, yeah, I actually do have this, unit. It's like a bestseller. It's like really, really good and teachers love it and I make a lot of money from it. Yeah, that's probably my diamond. Like you might already have it. But even if you already have it, this little podcast episode is the reminder to, give it a little clean and give it a little sparkle, make it shine. So for that, I would say it would be optimizing it and maybe even marketing it. We tend to assume that our better selling resources don't need any work. That's why they're bestsellers. They must be fine. And we tend to actually neglect them a lot because we think maybe we're actually scared to touch them because we're like, I don't want to mess around with the SEO. What if I do something and it makes it worse? Like sometimes we're actually fearful of our bestsellers. And a lot of the time we just assume, hey, it sells every day. It's making me loads of money. I don't need to worry about it. And you're just putting all your energy into something else, like making another resource. But you have a lot of earning potential with your better selling resources and your higher earning resources. Putting your time and energy into that can actually only bring you more money. So I would recommend optimizing your diamond, and that would be making sure it's got the best of the best when it comes to covers and thumbnails, really amazing preview, really detailed description, and great SEO and all that. And like looking at your data and making sure that it's really, really great in terms of the listing so you can make the most money possible from it. And then marketing wise, you could be doing more. Like I always say, you could always be doing more when it comes to marketing. Write another email about it, make another pin for it, make another social media post for it, run another ad for it, whatever. Like you could always kind of put more time and energy into it versus your resources that aren't really bringing you much money. But the marketing thing, I will add a little caveat. You really only want to be doing that if you have the capacity to market. I feel like I have to add that in because you might be like a really seasoned seller and you have like a team to support you, or you've got lots of time and money So you can dedicate time to running an email list or a Facebook group or whatever. If you're a smaller or newer seller, newer as in like, you've only been selling like a year, but smaller seller, maybe you're only earning a few $100s a month. You're not earning crazy large amounts of money. Probably shouldn't be putting all of your time into marketing, because that's what's caused you to have the smaller amount of sales. Is you're probably super distracted by trying to run an Instagram account instead of working out why you're only making $200 a month on TPT. Like, something to fix there, and Instagram is not going to fix it. And so that's a little segue. But yeah, marketing, I want to add that in whenever I mention marketing from now onwards, because I've had my eyes open to it, that's for sure. And it's a big thing I've been pushing in my program for seasoned sellers, Secrets for Success. And I already feel this way. Like, I've already felt this way for a long time about marketing, and how sometimes it can be really, really damaging to smaller sellers in the way it kind of sucks all their time and energy and pulls them away from the thing that matters, which is their store. I've always felt that, but I've actually been working with people in Secrets for Success. Like, I even had one person mention to me how many marketing platforms they were doing and how much they were struggling with their earnings. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, if I grab you and shake you and tell you just to like delete all of those things, like just delete your Instagram account right now. That's a bit theatrical. I did not say that. But I just wanted to say, like, stop everything. Stop all of that. All of the marketing you're doing. You cannot market resources that just aren't selling. Like, there's absolutely no point. So you have to be really mindful of marketing. So I have to add that little caveat in now when I say market something, because I don't want to send the message that that should be where you spend the majority of your time. Sorry, a little bit of a ramble there. But if you are in a position to, in terms of being a seasoned seller or something, yes, you certainly can market your diamond resource. The best thing really to do is probably just to optimize its listing. Now, okay, what if you were listening and you're thinking, I actually don't think I have anything that really fits this criteria? Maybe you can think of a few little resources that maybe are sort of fitting a couple of things, like, I have a few activities that, they're not fluff, they're pretty good quality, and I'm really proud of them, and I did put time into them, but if they're not really selling well for you, and I don't know, your diamond really is the thing that's like doing well in your store, usually because it's so amazing. I mean, you might have something that has the potential to be a diamond, and maybe you could turn it into a diamond by simply putting in your energy and time into it. Like I said, making it sparkle with all the optimizations. So that's an option. And the other thing is, if you really can't think of anything, you might need to create your diamond. So that would be sitting down and brainstorming a new product idea, and you need to design an individual resource or a product line of some resources that ultimately leads to a bundle and that will fit all this criteria. And it needs to be something that isn't too competitive or saturated. So I would strongly recommend, if you're going to do this, to have a research on TPT search, just to make sure you haven't fallen in love with an idea that is super done to death. There are some things you might think, like, you're in the cater to niche, for example, and you're like, I want to make this like phonics bundle. And then you go and look and you realize that there are 1 billion other phonics resources just like what you're thinking of. Now, I want to be careful here and say, you don't have to, look at that stuff on TPT and let that put you off. Because, of course, if you did that every single time you had a product idea, you might be a bit depressed because, there's always someone that's done it before. But I think there is a limit. And although there's always going to be other people doing similar things to you, I don't know, there's a certain threshold where it gets to the point where it's just too many. And there's just so many, kindergarten literacy centers or whatever, like where the results on TPT say there's like 2 million results. And the first page is full of people with like thousands of reviews. And it's like, that's just a reality check that there's some things that are just more competitive than others. And so, I would say that, if you've got that opportunity to be thinking of an idea from scratch that you specifically want to make your diamond, then maybe you could be looking into something that isn't overdone. I know that that's depressing because, people will probably thinking, Alex, you shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be telling people to not make resources just because someone else has made it. Like, I know that's always true. Someone else has always made it, but you want to be setting yourself up for success. And there is just a certain point where it's so competitive that, like, it doesn't matter what kind of SEO you do, you just cannot compete when there's just too much in the market. The market is too saturated in a certain product area. You're just sort of setting yourself up for failure in a way. But if you can go into it with something that's really unique, really original, and just really not overdone, like I mentioned earlier, if you're doing something that no one else wants to do, and you're making this full year curriculum, or this, year-long set of activities, it's going to take you ages to make. But, you can see on TPT search, like, there's a couple of people that have made these kind of things, but the competition's pretty slim, really. There's like a handful of other sellers that have done this, but you're not competing with thousands and thousands and thousands of them, right? So you're a high school seller, you can make this like biology year-long curriculum. You go on there, yeah, there's a couple of other biology sellers, there's a few year-long curriculums on there. You're not going to be the first one to ever do this, but you're not competing with 5,000 of them. Like, you have a look and you sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, this is something that I feel like there is room for. And there's room for me to do it in my own way and make it special and different and unique, a little bit different to everyone else's. And, I have something to offer here and there's room for me here. And I think sometimes you have to be realistic about these kind of things. I know all of this all too well because a lot of my resources really do fall into a very saturated niche, the cater to kind of area, the ELA. And although a lot of my stuff's actually writing resources, so not as bad, I kind of niched it down a little bit. At the end of the day, some of these areas where some of my resources fall into, like, they're so competitive. So if you can find something that isn't super overdone, super saturated, super competitive, you give yourself a little bit more of a chance. And that's just the little reality check I wanted to share. I think it's important to be honest with ourselves. So if you are going to create your diamond, it might be a good idea to create something that isn't overdone. And it won't actually be super hard to find because, like I said, there are so many things that people don't have time to make, especially other sellers, because not every other seller might have the time commit that you have. And if you can be willing to kind of give it your all and put all your time and energy into making this big, amazing thing, even just deciding to do that, like, you're ahead of the race because there are so many people that just never, ever have the time or energy or inclination to do that. And so when you commit to something really big like that, you're already ahead of the pack. Really, really cool. And then, of course, this is just like makes so much sense when you think about it. When you opt to make something other sellers aren't making, that they don't have the time or energy to make, it automatically makes it something desirable for buyers. Because if other sellers can't be bothered or don't have the time to make it, well, other teachers aren't either. The buyers are not going to have the time. They're full-time teaching and they're super busy. They're not going to have time to design this year-long curriculum. So it makes it so much more irresistible. I talked so much about this, about how you want to make these resources that teachers need. They sell better, quite simply, because they're so much more desirable. It's like, it's really hard to sell something that's easy to make, that anyone can whip up, because the buyer themselves can just throw it together. It's hard. You've got to work so hard to persuade them to buy it. But when it's something that's really hard to make, that the other sellers aren't making, or the buyers themselves would never be able to make in a million years, it's almost effortless to sell it. Not literally effortless, but it feels a lot more effortless. It almost sells itself because the product in and of itself is just so much more irresistible. Anyway, that is the end of my little discussion about diamonds. I hope it has given you something to think about. Now, you might be thinking, okay, you've discussed what these diamonds are, like what it could look like and how I need to find my diamond or create my diamond. But why should I really be doing this? This is going to be a big money maker for you. And at the end of the day, that's all we want, is to increase our earnings and make more money on TPT. Let's not pretend it's anything else. It's a little bit of a creative outlet, but it's also about making money. And let's be honest, this is probably the thing that's going to bring you a lot of money, because you're going to put time into something, then you're going to probably charge a fair amount of money for it. It might end up being like this $50 bundle. That has the potential to bring you a lot of revenue in the future, coming months and years. So it is worth it. But something like this will take time. Deciding to make some really big diamond thing, or if you already have it, going in and actually like updating it and optimizing. Like, there's a time commitment with these things, but I encourage you to prioritize that, because there's a lot more revenue potential in that than there is in churning out another $1 resource, than there is in making another Instagram reel. And like that just to kind of point towards the product creation and the marketing. If you are making just another so small product, that's probably not going to make you a millionaire. Harsh reality check, but the next like 10-page set of worksheets you were planning on making, is it really going to make you a millionaire? Maybe not, I don't know. And then the next thing you're about to spend time on, like, I was just going to go on Instagram and scroll on that for 20 minutes and then maybe make a story and then spend like 25 minutes tearing my hair out trying to make this reel or whatever. Like, is that going to make you a millionaire? Probably not. That single action item is probably not going to do that. It's going to drive you crazy. But, sitting down and doing something to do with your diamond, like, this is stuff that can bring you money. So something to think about. I really, really hope this has helped. I will put a link in the show notes to the waitlist for Secrets for Success. It's not open right now, but as I'm mentioning on the podcast, I'll always make sure I put the waitlist so you can always access it when it is open. But it is a program for seasoned sellers. So people that have been selling for more than 1 year. You can't be like a brand new newbie. but it's not really for like super veteran, huge, big sellers making like millions of dollars a year. You know, if you're making like 5 figures a month, if you're ranking really, really high on TPT, like the top couple of hundred, it probably isn't for you. I'm not saying you wouldn't benefit from it. You definitely would, but it's more been designed for someone kind of in the middle. And, you know, when you're like, you're earning like a couple $100s a month, but you want to make a few thousand, or you're making a few thousand, you want to make more. But it's kind of the seasoned sellers, but I wouldn't say super, super veteran, super big sellers. Anyway, there's a lot that I've been like talking about in this episode that really comes from what I've been doing with SFS, and it's, you know, putting your energies into the right thing. I'm feeling very passionate about that lately. The biggest impact, you know, that you can have is when you're spending your time like prioritizing things, but when you're spending your time well. Where you spend your time is everything. Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty cool. It's going well. Like as of recording right now, it's this episode's coming out, you know, in September, but it's actually like the end of August I'm recording this. And my first cohort's gone through, and it's been like so cool. It's been really, really awesome. I've been doing all this like kind of coaching, like this one-on-one kind of support, and I don't know, it's been really, really cool. I feel like it's so different to when you just like have a course and people are just kind of like left to their own devices and they're just kind of working through lessons. It's such a different feel because it's like all this like helping each other kind of thing. Anyway, it's really, really cool. I'm really enjoying it. Me putting all my energy into that has been a little bit about why I wasn't releasing any episodes in August. I do apologize for that. But I'm just kind of living by the thing I'm teaching you, which is the one thing. And I've been talking about a lot about that lately. Like putting your energy into one thing, moving a mile in one direction versus an inch in a million directions. Big, big fan of that. Essentialism, the one thing, great books, highly recommend. But yeah, I'm living the thing that I'm always teaching you. And that's like, I put everything into my one thing, which was SFS. And so yeah, I put everything else kind of went to the side a little bit, goes to my Facebook group a little bit, goes to my Instagram a little bit. You know, it's not the end of the world. I'm back again on the podcast and stuff. But I was able to give that program my everything. And I think that's the best way to do things. When you give everything a half effort, you don't go anywhere. I really struggled with my rambling. I thought this episode's going to be so good because I actually wrote notes for a change, and I actually had a little bit of like an outline instead of just rambling for 20 minutes. I still feel like I rambled for 20 minutes though. I don't know. You guys don't seem to mind. Okay, well, I hope that you have a terrific day and good luck with your diamond.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Terrific Teacherpreneur. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Come back for more actionable tips and helpful wisdom in the next episode with your host, Alex. Until then.